Morning everyone, my name is Damien. I paired up with Philip for this assignment. Together we made a video game that is a blend of styles between a hack and slash and a platformer. We used an online fantasy name generator to come up with the name Elderborn Castle. Our game is centered around a knight trying to storm a castle. He utilizes hand-to-hand combat via a sword and can block attacks with a shield. It begins outside Elderborn Castle within a forest. There's guards in the forest that try to stop our hero's progression towards the castle. Once we defeat them, we move on to a level that fully introduces platforms and jumping. Eventually, we make it through to a bridge that takes our hero into Elderborn. Once inside the castle, we continue to hack and slash our way through to the inner keep, defeat all the bad guys and win the game. Right, let's delve into the specifics of the game structure. We decided to go down a traditional path and divide the game up into scenes. We have a scene for a front menu, with which the player can configure some basic options. We have scenes for a set of levels to play, and we also have a game won and a game lost scene. We only found the time to make 3 levels, even though we planned a lot more. The game starts by presenting the player with the front menu. It's a basic menu that allows the player to change a few minor settings if desired. After that, they can start the game. Within any level, the player can press the letter P on the keyboard to activate the in-game pause menu. The player can change the same set of options we saw earlier and in the game or in the application.
Hi everyone, Philip here covering hit points and stamina. In our game, our player has 2 main attributes, health and stamina. Health is an easy one and most obvious for many players in a lot of video games. Our player has a finite health that you as the player have to protect. Attacking enemies will reduce your health, and when you lose your health, you lose a life and you'll be reset to the last checkpoint. Our second attribute that you as the player have to manage is called stamina. Stamina is used when our knight performs a physically intense task that would, in the real world, tire or slow that person down. Things like sprinting, attacking, blocking, and jumping will drain your stamina. When you run out of stamina, first you will no longer be able to sprint or jump, and your attacks will have reduced power as you tire. You must manage your stamina intensely, as it is very, very easy to run out and you quickly find yourself surrounded by enemies with no real way to get away quickly or kill them before they can kill you. So why did we add these? These are added to the game as a component so that way the player has to manage and engage with the game more acutely rather than just running around mindlessly hacking and slashing.
Let's have a look at the camera system. What we were trying to achieve is a camera that both translates and rotates so that a dynamic feel to the game is achieved. However, we didn't want to put the burden upon the player to manage the camera. We also wanted the player to freely move on all axes. The solution we went for is to implement a camera tracking system. Our system uses colliders placed within the world that act as triggers for the camera to react to the movement of the player. When the player's character enters an area, the camera looks at state associated with the area to determine where it should view the action from. The only tricky part here is handling the fact that the world geometry could be convex, concave, axis-aligned, or arbitrarily placed. We handle each of these cases specifically within the code so that the player has a dynamic, immersive experience. For the use case where the world has convex geometry, we rotate the camera around the geometry by matching the perimeter of a cylinder. For the use case where the world has concave geometry, we place the camera at a fixed point and look at the player as they walk across the geometry. For the use case where the geometry is axis aligned, we simply slide the camera along the side of a box. For the final use case, where the world geometry was either arbitrarily placed or was a peculiar shape, We found that a good solution was to use two colliders. One collider is what we use to place the camera, and the second collider is what we used as a trigger.
So throughout the game we had to build a number of menus and GUI elements. Keeping in with our Knight and Middle Ages theme, our UI text is in a style that you could easily imagine written on a scroll. Instead of using the in-engine font and text elements, we used images created in GIMP or Paint.net and imported them as textures and then imported them as images into our canvases. This gave us a greater amount of control in how we wanted our styling to be in terms of color and appearance, and things that you can just do a bit better in an image editor than you can in Unity's UI element controls. The menus and UIs was a little bit challenging. Getting that consistent look and feel is really important, so that way as the player, where to find things is expected. If you know one menu, where you find things can be translated pretty much to any other menu. And with having such a small amount of menus and options, it was very simple to copy and paste menu items from one to the other because they are so similar. And the last menu is the game over menu. So when you win or lose the game, you have the options of restarting back to the very beginning, or quitting the game, or going back to the main menu.
The combat system is based around hand-to-hand combat. The player and the enemies have a box collider as a child object. When either unit has progressed their attack animation to a specific point, we check if there's something within the box collider. The player has the option to block an attack. This is done by simply holding the right mouse button. For this use case, we modify the amount of damage applied to the player.
So checkpoints. So like most games, we use checkpoints for managing the position of the player after they die. So when a player crosses a checkpoint, there'll be an audible tone and a checkpoint UI element come across the screen, letting the player know that they have in fact got to the next checkpoint. Their position is saved, and if they were to die, you just restart back at that checkpoint. However, if you were to lose the game, you would have to start from the very first level all over again. It's a very basic, well-known feature that everyone expects in this sort of game, and our one is no exception.
That concludes Elderbourne Castle. Thank you for taking the time to watch our video.